bad public administrator joke is no one knows about us, but people are dying to meet us because that's who we deal with in the county. We deal with deceased persons.
Talking about some of your workload statistics, John, 1,179 calls, 1,268 follow-ups. Typically, what you do is you accompany law enforcement or the coroner after somebody dies, and there's no one there to take care of their things. Is that
That's
fair?
correct. If there's no family immediately available to be responsible for the property of the deceased person, they will call us and we'll come in. Typically, the coroner deputy still at the scene, law enforcement still at the scene. About half the time we arrive, the mortuary is still at the scene, and we will stand by while the coroner attempts to locate next of kin because that's their responsibility first, and we don't cut in front of them. And then if no one is located, we will gather up the property that would be easy to carry off by a thief, um, cash, jewelry, credit cards, the kind of stuff people would rob a house for. We gather those things up. We take them with us with a witness and an inventory all filled out, and we'll lock out the residence. We put like a real estate type lockout on there, so even a person with a key can't get in without us knowing about it. Then our first goal is to find the family and turn it all over to them for them to handle.
John, we were at your office. You have a couple vaults, and you are very security conscious, and you maintain these things on the behalf of the dead, and you're entrusted to do this. And we're talking clothes, jewelry, guns, cars, real estate.
Yeah, we don't get into the real estate and that kind of thing until the court appoints us. But if there's nobody to serve as administrator for some reason, if there's nobody willing and able, and sometimes an administrator is named, but folks will name brother, sister, same generation to be their administrator, and then they live a nice long life and they're 80, 90 years old, and the person that they name's the same age, and they're unable to serve because it's a lot of work. 50-50, or with a little edge Republican.
I know you also do a lot of public outreach. We had the chance to visit you when you were giving a public outreach speech recently, and one quote you said, "People die like they live," which seems to be something that you kind of believe in. Explain that quote. What does that mean to you as the public administrator?
People will say, "Well, gee, what's that like?" And I'll say, well, people die like they live. Sometimes it's a drama, sometimes it's a comedy, sometimes it's a tragedy, but it's always interesting because people's lives are interesting.
So let's continue on with kind of the process. And somebody dies, you've been called in there, you've gathered and inventoried all these things, some valuable, some family memento type things. Then you kind of do a little skip tracing, or you try and find a will, find the person that the next heir, and then kind of work on their behalf and or get the property from the decedent to them. Is that kind of fair?
Yeah, we look for the will always, and if we can find one, we're always really happy to find a will. But sometimes you find a will, and the will could be 25 years old, and it's interesting that I always tell people attach some information, some contact information to your will, because in the will they will name an individual and they may name a relationship, like I leave everything to my brother Randy, and they give the name and that kind of thing. And I've asked attorneys, I said, why don't you put any contact information in there? And they say, well, it changes, addresses change and that kind of thing. And I go, yeah, but at least it's a start. And social security numbers don't change.
Hey, John, I'm 40-something years old. I don't have any kids. I don't need a will, right?
I'm laughing because, of course, we hear that a lot. Actually, statistically, and I think I'm saying these correct, it's a little over half of the adults in the U.S. don't have a will. And it's about 50% for white Americans. For African American, it's like a third, and then for Hispanic, it's like a fourth. So it's an interesting kind of cultural thing, that goes on there with who has a will and who doesn't have a will. And everybody can have a will, especially in Nevada. It's very easy.